Top of the morning to you on this Friday, September 26th. This is once again Joe Lemire bringing you the Morning Buzzcast. The conference portion of Game Changers, SBJ's annual event celebrating women who are leading in the sports business, finished up on Thursday in New York City. Lots of great conversations all around. At what other event can you hear about brand building from a WWE star like Chelsea Green? And then a little while later, hear from WNBA president turned Big East commissioner Val Ackerman. And there has been meaningful progress in the representation of women in positions of leadership, though Ackerman emphasized the importance of keeping the foot on the pedal so that the leader ranks of sports match up with our athlete populations, she said. She called that the most important priority at this juncture of her career. She also, on the Big East side of things, called on Congress to step in and provide a federal framework to help college sports operate in this new era of professionalism. In another example of progress, Kim Dameron, Learfield's president of sports properties, said women's sports sponsorship revenue under her watch doubled the industry rate of growth, enlarging the pie by 24% compared to 12% elsewhere. New LPGA Commissioner Craig Kessler, an SBJ 40 under 40 honoree this year, also took the stage and touted the league's global appeal. He said a number of folks have suggested that the LPGA Tour is not American enough, but he'd rather lean into its international reach. He pointed out the parity that exists from all over, with 25 winners in its 25 events this year. 21 of them were international golfers, including the winners of all 5 majors. Kessler said, quote, "If you look at most sports leagues in the United States today, they have one primary objective, and that is to figure out how to expand their fan base globally. We're already there. That's a massive asset. And so the question for us is, how do we lean into that?" Kessler then described the opening tee shot of the Ryder Cup as the best moment in sports, before going on to explain that the Solheim Cup has only a third of the history as the Ryder Cup, but it'll continue building that tradition in order to reach the same stature. Speaking of the first Ryder Cup tee shot, it was scheduled at 7:10 this morning, so, well, I'd almost be able to give you a live report, but I'm sure you'll have no trouble finding the results on all the sports websites you normally check. Our Josh Carpenter is out at Bethpage Black this week and reported on the F&B operations of Patina Group. The PGA of America has offered the Ryder Cup Plus ticket that includes food and non-alcoholic beverages, and as a result, Patina is expecting to distribute massive amounts of F&B. Given a total projected attendance of 250,000 fans, the concession estimates include 135,000 burgers, 93,000 hot dogs, 60,000 breakfast sandwiches, and 665,000 bottles of water. On top of that, beer sales are expected to approach 500,000 at 475,000. Although I have to note, there was considerable discourse about beer prices in the golf media yesterday. It seemed like every golf-centric outlet posted a similar photo, as did our Josh Carpenter, on social media earlier this week. Price tags for Michelob Ultra caught some attention as they go for as much as $18 for a 25-ounce pour. A few other dispatches from Carpenter. Whoop, the wearable device in which Rory McIlroy is an investor, will once again share heart rate data from some of its participants, including McIlroy and Justin Thomas, not to mention both captains, Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald. Carpenter also noted that PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap and Live Golf CEO Scott O'Neill both were on the course yesterday. And he noted ruefully, the Ryder Cup Media Hotel has every Versant network except the Golf Channel. Our Ben Fisher had some breaking news yesterday that private equity giant 6th Street had reached a deal to acquire a 3% stake of the New England Patriots at a valuation of more than $9 billion. When the NFL implemented its policy permitting limited private equity investments to vetted firms last year, 6th Street was one of 3 to be sanctioned for taking such stakes, which are permitted up to 10% of a franchise's valuation. But it was the only one of the 3 not to have already made an investment. Arctos has invested in the Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers. Ares Management bought a stake in the Miami Dolphins. Now, 6th Street has followed suit, continuing its foray into sports that has deepened since 2021, when it bought a majority 51% stake in Legends, the hospitality and consulting agency co-owned by the Dallas Cowboys and New York Yankees. 6th Street is the lead investor in the NWSL's Bay FC and has also made investments into the NBA's Boston Celtics and San Antonio Spurs, MLB's San Francisco Giants, and La Liga's Real Madrid. For the 6-time Super Bowl champion Patriots, there is also a deal in place to sell another 5% to Dean Metropoulos, the principal of his own investment firm. That involvement was first reported by Sportico. Robert Kraft, the influential owner of the Patriots, and his family have owned 100% of the Patriots since buying the franchise for $172 million in January 1994. Taken together, the two limited stakes that are being sold are worth 8% of the Patriots. Just for comparison's sake, CNBC's recent valuation of the Patriots was $9.25 billion. So 8% of that is worth about $740 million and a new capital infusion for the Kraft family, presuming the deals receive the expected approvals at the next NFL owners meeting. That'll happen next month. Fisher reported that Kraft has no intention of relinquishing control of the team anytime, and that he will hold on to this new money for future opportunities. In other news, notable U.S. lawmakers, including senators and former presidential candidates, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, were among the politicians to sign a letter addressed to leadership at Disney, ESPN, the NFL, and MLB, raising concerns about reported deals in which the NFL would sell its media assets to ESPN for a 10% equity stake, and MLB would transfer its streaming rights to ESPN. Yahoo Sports wrote about the letter and explained that the Democratic lawmakers are worried the deals might lead to antitrust issues and unfair competition with the result of higher prices for the consumers. It also lodged concerns about whether ESPN could objectively cover the NFL if they have such intertwined business interests. We'll look for any sort of public response and follow that as it continues. On a separate note regarding MLB's reported but not finalized media deals, The Athletic now writes that Netflix will be getting more than just the Home Run Derby in the proposed 3-year agreement. It will share special event games with NBC and Peacock, and it'll carry the season opener next March. While most clubs begin play on March 26th, the Yankees will visit the Giants for an unopposed primetime opener on March 25th, which is now expected to stream exclusively on Netflix. On Wednesday evening, I had the opportunity to take a tour of the Etihad Park construction site, my first time wearing a hard hat, where NYCFC is building the first soccer stadium in New York City history. A story and video will follow on sportsbusinessjournal.com, but a few points stand out, even in the early stages of this construction process. Some imagination is still required to properly visualize the finished product, but you can see its great potential. For one, the venue will be cozy. It'll seat 25,000, but the footprint of land is compact. Even in the early stages of construction, you can see the relatively steep gradient of the supporter section that'll accommodate more than 3,000 fans with some safe standing space. Maybe it's recency bias, but it certainly reminded me of the wall at Intuit Dome. NYCFC CEO Brad Sims noted that the stadium sits on a floodplain, so it couldn't be dug into the ground the way many sports venues are. Plus, it sits in LaGuardia's flight path, so there was a cap to its potential height. Compressing that ceiling and floor adds to the compactness in what should be a good thing in terms of the home atmosphere. Though the pitch will be exposed to the skies above, a roof will cover most of the building, including the stands. That will protect against rain and sun, but also keep crowd noise in and air travel noise out. The persistent flights overhead interrupted more than a few comments from the executives leading the tour. And across the street at Citi Field, they tend to have commercial airliners giving national anthem flyovers on a pretty regular and unexpected basis. Also, Etihad Park will be fully electric and sustainable. Solar panels will cover the roof and at times will generate credits when it supplies electricity back to the grid. It'll power some unique experiences in the building, including a cubic welcome area in the corner of the stadium that'll incorporate some of the same technology as appears in the Las Vegas Sphere. Brad Sims teased some news on that front down the line when more details are finalized. As an added perk, the media were invited to stick around for NYCFC's evening match against Inter Miami. It was my first time seeing Lionel Messi play, and though the home side controlled the action for much of the first half, Inter Miami went on to win 4-0 behind 2 goals and an assist from Messi, who was positively electric in those short scoring bursts. Notably, the support of the crowd was probably closer to 50-50 than I'm sure NYCFC executives would have preferred. Some of that, of course, owes to the singular attraction of Messi, and some of that is due to playing home matches split between Yankee Stadium and Citi Field without a typical large season ticket base. That'll all change with Etihad Park, I'm sure, especially because they reported that early sales have been very strong. It's going to be truly a unique home soccer experience, and they have grand plans for it hosting not just NYCFC, but U.S. national team matches, concerts, and much more. That's all for this Friday, September 26th. Enjoy the Ryder Cup and whatever else you're up to this weekend. Abe Madcore will be back on Monday. Have a great day. This is Joe Lemire, signing off.